Welcome back, friends, to the most relaxing thing you'll watch this week. But before we embark on an autumnal voyage of musical discovery, let me ask you one question. What's the worst thing about professional musicians? I can think of many, but this one tops the list. They play too many right notes. With that in mind, I shall include one wrong note in every episode henceforth, and it's up to you to find it. This week is going to be a challenge. A brand new instrument, fresh from the workshop a mere 150 years ago, has landed in one of my favourite country churches, and it's my job to help it sing again. When you see the organ it replaced, you'll understand why. Welcome back, friends. And where am I today on this November morning? Well, I have no idea. But that's the beauty of the countryside. You don't need to know where you are, so long as it's light, that is. I know where I'm heading, though. I'm heading to a church which I already know that you love because you've enjoyed the glorious musical instrument inside it once before. But I have a slightly different challenge this week, and I can't wait to show you. But for now, we can just enjoy this incredible autumnal scenery. In fact, the last time I was in this village, it was almost like the mirror image of my situation today. It was back in the spring, when the leaves were just coming out on the trees. And look at everything now, it's the reverse. Everything is turning brown, golden, and leaves gently drop from the trees as we prepare for winter. I'm on my way to one of the many churches in England sadly listed as redundant. Redundant but not unloved, and this is a story about being a friend to friendless churches and friendless organs too. Sophia is helping me film today, and we're making our way through Long Crichel, a tiny village in Dorset. The church might not be used for regular worship anymore, but it's still the focal point of this community. Trolley in hand, welcome back to St Mary's Church in Long Crichel, one of my all-time favourites on the Salisbury Organist channel. This church is not actually part of the Diocese of Salisbury. It's been under the care of the Friends of Friendless Churches, a charity, since 2011. Let's take a look inside. Given the village population of less than 100, it's easy to see why this church might have fallen out of use in recent years. But it's incredibly inviting, and a joy to be back. We have the trolley today because I'm not exactly sure how much time I'm going to need to get used to the organ here, and this has all of our provisions inside. I have a bit of a challenge on this week's video, but I know how much you like a challenge, and judging by the performance of my last video where I was well and truly defeated, perhaps an organist can't play too many wrong notes after all. Most of this structure is a Victorian rebuild, but the tower is medieval. As with many of our great country churches, the crown of this building is its interior. after you. Here we are back inside the large nave of St Mary's Church. You know all about this building already if you've seen my Unplayable Organ Challenge Accepted video, where Billy and I ventured to play an organ which really needed some help in this church. So you know about the history of this building. It's much more of a Georgian space than Gothic revival that we've seen in other churches. It's incredibly beautiful, and from a musical point of view, there are some very significant features here. Number one, there's no electricity. What does that mean? It means that any music making here has to be powered by some other means. Number two is what you can hear, a fantastic acoustic. There are no soft furnishings, which is something I love about this church. It's a bit like the difference between a guitar with its body stuffed with cotton wool and one without. The church is like a resonating chamber for music. It projects the sound, so you can have a smaller instrument and it can be louder in a building like this, compared to a church which is full of cushions and covers and all kinds of things like that. And the third important feature of this church, as far as music is concerned, is that although it isn't used for regular worship, it's loved by the community, who is determined that it should continue to be used as their village church. I played for the Friends of Friendless Church's annual Evensong here in September, and the place was packed. And for that and other events, concerts, Christmas carol services, this building needs an organ that functions. And that brings us to the south transept. Do you remember this organ? Built by Story and Clark. This is the old instrument here at St Mary's Church. It's come all the way from Chicago, and I'm sorry to say that it's past its best. If you recall in my Unplayable Organ video, all this thing can do is a kind of Vivaldi-esque huffing sound. It can't do anything else, I'm afraid, because the bellows are completely knackered, to use a colloquial phrase. Unfortunately, this machine is not only past its best, it's probably past any hope of repair. The keys are coming off, or they've come off already. It's almost unplayable. In fact, it's worse than it was when I played it back in April. Could be repaired. It would take a lot of time and probably quite a lot of money, and it wouldn't be much good afterwards, I'm afraid. So it remains here slumbering away. But the replacement for now here at St Mary's is this organ. This one is American, this one is English. A few months ago, the organist of Alverdiston, which is another church I really enjoyed showing you on the Salisbury Organist channel, he told me that in a farmhouse nearby, they were trying to rehome the old chapel organ because the house had been sold. And it had been moved into a barn after the sale of the house. And there is a very limited market for these kinds of things. So of course it was being given away for free. But even so, it's hard to find anybody that would want one. But this church needed a new organ. And this was the solution. We were very lucky here. Not only was the organ in playable condition, but the farmers delivered it here in the back of their pickup. It was built in the 1870s by a London-based organ and piano dealer called Robert Stather. Stather was still working half a century later, and he was survived by his wife Emma, who lived to be 104 years old, and their 9 children. Let's take a closer look at this organ. The first thing to say is that it's pumped by the feet, so that gets over the electricity problem. And this one has this rather neat cover for the pedals. And I'm pleased to say that these pedals don't wheeze. They're completely silent, and you can just hear the rush of the air inside the organ. Pumping on those pedals allows air to enter the reeds, but just like stops on a pipe organ, you need to pull these out to allow air to enter a particular set of reeds. So if you have no stops drawn and press a key, the organ won't make any noise. The advantage of an instrument like this is that it doesn't need tuning, and it's also very compact. As well as that, they're quite easy to move. You can lift it with just a few strong parishioners. And they often had coffin handles on the side to lift them with. The one thing I don't understand about this instrument, and perhaps specialists in reed organs could help me out here, is what this volume control does and how you can change it. It seems to move slightly, and then it often pings straight back. Does anybody know what that is? When I came into this church on Saturday to try this organ out, to see how I got on with it, there was one thing in particular which I noticed, which was very strange. In fact, it was slightly similar to the old organ. There seems to be a big effect when you pump on each pedal, an almost percussive effect. It makes it difficult to hold a melodic line. Do you see, it doesn't hold wind as evenly as a pipe organ, especially one with an electric blower. But the effect of that is you can be incredibly expressive on an instrument like this. So you're almost playing it like an accordion, the way you'd constantly draw the bellows in and out. It's a percussive effect, and it makes this instrument almost like a tiny orchestra. When I came in on Saturday, I was improvising on this organ. Generally, when I'm doing my reconnaissance trip to a church, I don't bring any sheet music. Then I can just be completely free to try out different improvisations and see what works. And as soon as I realised that you could use the foot pumping as an effect, it completely changed how I saw this instrument. And as a result of that, I wrote a piece of music here and started to sketch it out. And it was kind of based on the Latin inscription on that window, which is Rex Regnum Beatior, which means the King of Kings is more blessed. The reason it says that is because it's a play on the King family crest. William King was the vicar here when this church was being rebuilt, and the window was made there in his honour. So it seems like a good title for a dramatic organ piece in this church. Rex Regnum Beatior. or the King of Kings is more blessed. I have no doubt that the reed organ is a hugely overlooked musical instrument. They usually slumber away in our village churches, unplayed and unloved, and there isn't that much music written for them which is really approachable. They're usually the subject of jokes like, the only service that instrument needs is a requiem. And I don't think they deserve that, because even if they're not perfect, they can still sound incredible. And, you should know this by now, the beauty of the music is in the imperfections. With that in mind, I've started including wrong notes in my videos. So that you can find them, I've put together the score of Rex Regnum Beatior, and you can play it yourself. Just head to my Shopify page and you can buy this score, and the best thing about it is that it's sent to you digitally, so it just goes straight to your email address. You don't have to worry about me posting it, and you can just print it out and play it. It would work well on piano, harmonium, and of course pipe organ. Writing up pieces like this is a way that I can secure some kind of financial viability for the films that I make here on YouTube. As you know, if you've been following me for a long time, I'm not sponsored by any organisations ever, and not even endorsed by any charities. And that's the way that I like it to stay, actually. I like to be independent, and I think that you prefer it like that. But as a result, I do need support to keep making these films. And if you're not a musician but you'd like to support me, please do go ahead and use my PayPal link if you're able. It's a really good way of supporting because there isn't a big chunk of it sent off to somewhere else. You can also send a cheque, if you prefer, to the address on my website, benmaytonmusic.co.uk. And if you'd like to support my work, I would be so grateful. Thank you. For now, as this video goes out, it's Remembrance Sunday. So I wanted to end with something reflective as the sun set at St Mary's Church. There's something very moving about a friendless church and a friendless organ, although I'm its best friend now. And it suits American hymns beautifully. So I want to end with these words. When peace like a river attendeth my way, when sorrows like sea billows roll, whatever my lot thou hast taught me to say, it is well with my soul. Thank you so much for watching.